Hi everyone, this is Delilah from Love Disney Dolls, and today I am very happy to present to you all my one-of-a-kind Snow Queen Elsa doll. She is based on the limited edition Snow Queen Elsa that was released in November 2013, but I also made some changes to that design to be more suited to my own personal taste. Okay, so I decided I'm going to show you how I made each detail from the bottom up. So, hopefully you can see them there. You know, after looking at the shoes on the limited edition doll, they aren't translucent, they're actually opaque. So I figured, well, I can probably do that out of Sculpey clay. Now the problem is whenever you want to make doll shoes out of clay, with Sculpey clay you have to bake it in the oven, and obviously you can't put the doll in the oven and bake the shoes on. So it's really difficult to decide you know, how are you going to make that and make sure that the shoes keep the shape of the foot and that they're going to fit. So I puzzled it out for a little bit, and this is what I did. I actually did the bottom part of the shoe first. I did this part here, the sole, and the heel. I shaped those out of clay and stuck it onto the bottom of her foot so that it was shaped correctly, and then I very carefully removed it off of her foot and baked that, so that the bottom of the shoe, like here, all of this is curved to fit onto her foot perfectly. So that was baked, and then I didn't have to worry about ruining that. So I did that for both of the shoes, and then made a little pattern out of paper of the way that I wanted it to look based on the pictures. And then I placed that onto the rolled out, you know, piece of Sculpey clay, and I used an X-Acto knife to cut around it so that it would be, you know, exactly the way I wanted it. And I did that for the front and the back parts, and I just shaped them onto the shoe while her foot was in the shoe, because it has to be shaped properly, and carefully removed them and carefully baked them. So obviously they're not perfect because I couldn't bake them on the mold of her foot, but they fit her foot perfectly. Before we go up to the bodice, I'm going to show you her cape. Her cape, to me, is really the most important part. It was the part that I really wanted to make it perfect and put as much effort as possible into making the most beautiful cape. This was a process, making the cape. I found a pattern online. I did modify it, but I found a pattern that somebody made of you know, what the cape looks like, and the snowflakes on it and everything. I really wanted it to have the shape to it, the actual shape of Elsa's cape in the movie. Because the limited edition doll, the classic doll, both of them have capes that are just sort of rounded. So I found pictures of snowflakes from Frozen. I knew I wanted to use this one that is the, you know, sort of Elsa snowflake when she stomps the ice palace and, you know, it starts building it and everything. That's her snowflake, so I wanted to use that there. And then, you know, some of the other ones were just things that are on her cape already. And this pattern, of course. So, these are the threads that I used. They are metallic, they're shiny, they're really pretty. I saw these in the store and I thought to myself, this is gonna be great. I didn't realize how difficult it would be to work with this thread and this fabric. It proved to be really difficult. So, how did I embroider this? That's a question that before I did my Queen Edun, I was like, how am I going to do this? I can't draw the pattern onto it before I sew it. How am I going to do this? So I found something really cool. Put it here. It is called this Print Stitch Dissolve water soluble paper stabilizer. Okay. It's basically just pieces of paper. It's like a thin sort of paper, but it dissolves in water. So you can print whatever you want. You can put it into your printer and print the pattern onto the paper and put it, you know, on top of whatever fabric you want and just embroider right on top of it. So you can see exactly where you want to put your stitches. There's no way I would have been able to do this without this stuff. This stuff really made it happen. So this is what the pattern looked like. I made it pink so that I could see very clearly where my stitches were gonna go. As you can see there, it's not even. I had to change the one side. It didn't reach all the way to her feet. I wanted it to be longer, so I had to change it. And then I pinned the fabric on top of it. I actually used some spray adhesive, fabric adhesive that my mom had for quilting. And I sprayed it onto the paper and I stuck the fabric right on top of the paper. And I pinned it so that it was also secure. And then I started embroidering. I first did all around the edges and all around this zigzaggy part. I embroidered it on one layer of fabric, and then once it was all embroidered, I added on a second layer of fabric on the back and just sewed it all together and flipped it inside out so that it would have 2 layers to be extra shiny and pretty. I tested out what this glitter glue would look like if I, used it on this fabric, and it looked nice. So I decided, I just went ahead and I squirted it on there and I painted it on with a paintbrush, and I actually did 2 layers of it. So now this part is covered in glitter, but you can see it doesn't really look that different. It stands out, but not too much. It's still subtle. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the rhinestones. I bought a bunch of different sizes of them. These ones are the biggest. No, actually they're the second biggest. These ones are actually blue. These ones are actually blue Aurora Borealis crystals, and there's some other blue ones. And then there are also white clear ones, whatever you want to call that, lower down. I put the bigger ones at the top and tried to do sort of a gradient effect where the smaller ones, they get smaller and more spaced out as they go down the cape. And then for the snowflakes, I just put a bunch of crystals wherever they seemed to fit. This one has the little rectangular crystals that I used on her bodice. And there's the cape. I'm really most proud of the cape. I think that's my favorite part. Okay, the bodice is obviously a really important part. It's very prominent. So I bought these little crystals on eBay. They're rectangular, but they're Aurora Borealis crystals too. They're not just white. They have that multicolored shine to them. These are the sequins that I bought. They're big and round, and they're really pretty, iridescent blue, greenish, blue-greenish. So they were the exact color that I wanted, but just not the right shape. So I cut them apart into these little tiny pieces. They were pretty hard to work with. I had to use a toothpick, and I'd like scooped tacky glue onto the toothpick and then picked up the sequin and then stuck it on to the bodice. But that's what I did. I did it in rows, starting from the bottom. So starting from the very bottom of the bodice, I just did a first row. I just did a line across the bottom, and then I did another one, and another one, and another one, and I just kept going up and up and up until her whole bodice was covered with sequins. After I did that, I then attached all these little crystals. The rhinestones around here on the sleeve. These are really nice and tiny. Again, they're Aurora Borealis, so they glitter with different colors. The snowflakes were actually the easiest part of this whole thing because I did not make them. They're actually earrings. And so I wore them to Disney World last year with an Elsa Disney bound. And when I met Elsa, she actually really liked them. And so I thought how perfect to use these as the charms in Elsa's hair. Okay, and the last thing that I did to modify this Elsa was that I gave her eyelashes. I wanted them to look thicker and fuller. So I put like an extra layer on the end. So like in the end, there's an extra piece to the eyelash, like right over here, so that it looks thicker on that edge. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about my creative process here, if you need help making your own one-of-a-kind Elsa, and there's any sort of suggestions that I can give to you, please don't hesitate to comment or send me a message on my Tumblr or anything. Okay, and I will see you guys again soon.